We have a very special guest on episode 40 of the Kingsgrove Sports Centre Podcast. Hello everybody and welcome to episode 40 of the Kingsgrove Sports Centre Podcast. Can't believe it, we've actually already made it to 40. As I said, we have a very special guest which we will introduce shortly, but of course we have the man who is putting this all together somehow in this difficult isolation situation. It's very technical. I don't know how he does it, but Nick, welcome. Good to see you in the flesh, actually.
Man. This is the first time we've been in the same room.
We're in the same room. Don't worry, we are social distancing.
We're very far apart from one another.
I cannot touch him. I can barely see him, to be honest.
Very well.
Yeah.
And this is a brand new thing that we're doing here, doing a mix of in-studio podcasts with some Zoom call podcast things. So look, I'm really hoping by the end of it,
we're just happy that it's working.
Usable.
That it's working. And of course, the man is once again, he's still held up in the Norman O'Neill Cricket Centre. He's been locked down for God knows how long there. All on his lonesome. Hamish Solomons, welcome.
Thank you, Stuart, and hello to everyone out there.
As Ian Chappell would say, and hello to all of our viewers.
Yes, exactly.
That's right. Or viewer, one or the other. Don't know. Anyway, all right. Now, let's get to a very special guest. She, former employee of Kingsgrove Sports, champion cricket player, currently down in Tasmania. And now she can claim to be a published author and illustrator. Corinne Hall, welcome.
Thank you for that mighty introduction, Stu.
It's all true. It's all true. I mean, you're the only one here that's written a book and drew the pictures for it as well. So
I did draw all the pictures. I can claim that. I wrote a few of the words in the book. I don't know if it was 50% maybe of the book, so I'm not sure if that constitutes an author. But I mean, I'll take.
That's 50% more than Hamish has ever done, so it's okay.
Actually, Hamish has got quite a great setup there for any cricket lover, being stuck in isolation in an indoor cricket centre. I mean, Steve Smith, isn't that his dream?
Yeah, that's,
possibly.
That's with his house.
Now, we're in illustrious company here, Corinne, because in getting ready for today's podcast, I realised that you'd gone from the girl we used to knock about with at work at Kingsgrove Sports Centre to having a Wikipedia page. You've made it.
Oh, my goodness. Well, all my dreams have come true.
it needs a bit of updating. I just sort of let you know. I don't know who does that, but it's just randoms out there.
I think you could do that, Hamish. Yeah. You can get in. You could go in and update it, can't you?
I probably should.
Yeah.
I've got a bit of time on my hands at the moment.
Yeah.
Are you trying to get some freelance work here, Hamish? Like a little bit extra cash on the side here?
Any work,
pay you?
Please, any work. Just give me something to do that is not teaching my kids at home. Homeschooling.
Oh dear. How is that going, Hamish? Just by the way, it's going well?
Well, first day back at school for the kids from home today. First day of the term, I think you'd call it, and I'm here.
Excellent.
So it's going well.
Excellent. So it's going really well at the moment. Yeah. You're on fire.
You're teaching the kids how to skip school.
My wife sort of said to me, "Where are you going?" I said, I've got work." She says, "No." So I had to explain to her. She says, "That was conveniently planned by the boys." Thank you.
Just like, to be honest, I didn't think about school, but anyway, it was good for you. It was good for you. So you're going to be there all day, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, this is the preparation, and after we complete the show, there's a lot of work to be done. Obviously.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We've got to go through it to make sure that it went well, and
for Nick.
For me.
Yeah. And you're just going to stay in support, aren't you? Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I might just vacuum the facility just one more time.
How long does it take you to cover the square footage in there, man? Square meters, I guess here.
Look, it takes a couple of days at a time.
Have you got a ride on, or have you got to do it by hand?
I just use one of those handheld things.
One of the, like dustbuster type ones. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Tough work, mate. Tough work.
I'm impressed you know the name of that, Stu. I don't think there's too many dudes out there that would know the name of the handheld vacuum.
Yeah, we had one. We had one when we were a kid. I never used it, but we had one when we were. I didn't know where it was.
Your mum using it.
Yeah, I saw mum cleaning with it and thought, yeah, what's that, mum? She says a dustbuster. Here, use it. I said no, thanks. Yeah. All right. Anyway, enough of this shenanigans. Well, maybe before we get in the book, Corinne, you're down in Tasmania. Obviously, everybody's in isolation. How have you been keeping yourself entertained?
I'm someone who likes to be on the go a lot. Like I've worked with you guys and I like to be busy, as you guys know. So I've actually found it really difficult to not have the structure, and I really like to feel productive throughout a day. And when you get through a day and you realize all you've achieved is maybe doing the skyline of a puzzle, it doesn't feel so good. So I think I've had to be a bit more creative with how I use my time, but it's just taken me a little while to get some structure and a routine into my week after, I guess, being really busy with cricket and the book and some other side projects that I had going. Like everyone else, sort of this whole pandemic's just put a halt to most of the plans you sort of had for the first half of the year. So but in other ways, we've been really lucky. We've got a garage downstairs and I live with a couple other cricketers and we've managed to put a makeshift gym together. So hopefully we don't get too frumpy over the next couple of months while we're because we were meant to come back in a decent condition for pre-season. So we've got that, and I actually bought a kayak a couple of weeks ago and I'm starting to fish off the kayak.
Oh,
right. Oh, nice.
Obviously not. Yeah, it's awesome. There's some great spots down here in Tas. So I mean, it's coming into winter, so I'll either have to invest in some really, really good quality thermals or just pick the good days to go out on the water in winter. But that's kept me busy too.
Could be a bit fresh. You don't want to fall into the dirt.
So you're still in. I thought you might have just come back for a little trip to New Zealand. You're in Tasmania as we speak still.
Yeah, I am. So I
didn't realise they had Zoom in Tasmania.
There's the first one.
Do we need to keep a tally?
I mean,
yeah, that's one.
Yeah.
Have you got a sound effect for that, like a ding?
I can put one in.
Okay, perfect. Yes, we do have Zoom. We actually just got Uber Eats over this side of the bridge too, so we're really progressing.
Nice.
Wow. Tasmania is moving forward.
Yeah, man.
Well, guys, I'm just want to toot our Premier's horn down here. He's been very active and very proactive with what he's done, and he's actually he's put us in a good position down here in Tas with this whole pandemic thing. So there are parts of Tas which are quite forward in their thinking.
There you go. Well, I mean, you're already isolated anyway. Like you drifted from the mainland thousands of years ago. So
Yeah.
Yeah, our biggest issue was to try and stop people getting across on the Spirit of Tas. So as soon as we stopped that, we were sweet.
just get the Navy out. Yeah. All right, so let's get into one of the big topics. So we at Kingsgrove Sports knew you were a great artist. We've seen a lot of your drawings, but then you went down and you moved to Tasmania, and suddenly we discovered that there's this book that you've created. So it's called Victress. So it's a woman who paved the way in Australian sport. So you've got like 35. You got a copy? Yeah, get a copy. Yeah, got to plug it. Yep.
That was from my manager. He said, make sure you always have one on hand.
Put it in. It's available at all good bookstores. Yeah, available at all good bookstores. Get it everywhere. So you've got, it's 35 female athletes in the book?
Yeah, that's right. I chose 35. I originally wrote a list of 100 female Australian athletes who I guess for me had inspired me in some way or felt like had shaped the Australian sporting landscape in a way that's given me the opportunities I have today. So it was really tricky to narrow that list of 100 down to 35, but I think I would still be drawing now if I hadn't have cut it down. And I guess to make the book a reasonable size, we also had to limit the number of people. But I guess for me, I also chose, I tried to choose people across all different sports. So we've got Paralympians, Olympians, people from team sports, and across all generations as well. So I really enjoyed celebrating some people that I didn't really know of. One in particular was Heather Mackay, who's a squash player. And she competed at the highest level for 20 years. And I'll just throw this to you. How many games do you reckon she lost in that 20 years of playing?
It's something like it's a stupid number. Like it's like like 2 or 3 or something.
It's 2.
7.
Well done, Stu.
Two.
Another sound effect
2.
there, please.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Sure.
Yeah.
Give it.
So she lost
party
2
horn.
games in a 20-year career.
In a 20-year career. And the second time she lost, she said, that's the last time I'll lose. And then I think she went on for another few years not losing, and then finished her career in that way. So for me, I was like, how do we not know about that? We know about like the Don Bradmans, which we should know that story. Like, how do we not know about Heather Mackay? And obviously interacting with her to get some. So we got a quote from all the athletes as well around kindness, because we're raising money for the Kindness Factory, and just the interaction not only with her but all the women in the book. Everyone was so humble, and Heather was exactly the same. It felt like I was talking to my nan. She was absolutely
awesome.
Beautiful, and they were just so thrilled that they were even thought of. So it made that for me was one of the most rewarding parts of the whole process of the book.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Wow. So how did the book come about? Like, obviously you weren't just drawing stuff and go, you know what, I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna make a book. Like, how did it happen? How did your list of 100 come into a book?
It actually started in WBBL. What was it? 04. So in back into 2018, we weren't actually playing well, and we were maybe 3/4 way through the season, and throughout Big Bash, it's quite a chaotic period. You're traveling everywhere, you're in hotels, and it can get quite full on and fully encompassing of everything that you do. You can sort of get into this little bubble, and I use drawing as an outlet. So I would always take a notebook and a couple of pencils, and when we're in a hotel or traveling, it takes my mind off things, and it's a bit of an escape. And I needed a project, and I didn't know what I wanted to draw. And there was one game where we didn't play well. We should have won a game, and I was in my hotel afterwards, and I was having a bit of a pity party for myself. I was getting pretty down. I wasn't playing as well as I'd like, and I wanted to be that person to switch things around for our team. And in the midst of all that, beating myself up, my thinking really shifted quite quickly, and I just had this like overwhelming sense of gratitude. Like, I got to wake up every day and play the game I love as my job, and I'm like, I should not be complaining about anything. And it got me thinking about all the people who had worked so hard and sacrificed so much to give me the opportunities that I have today. And I started drawing Dawn Fraser. And I didn't share a lot of my drawings with anyone. I would send it to a couple of my best mates, and one of those is Lisa Stalaker. And I sent her that one, and she normally gives me some critiquing feedback, whether I've done a nose too big or an eye too small or whatever. She's very honest, which I really appreciate. And her and I just brainstormed. We said, let's do a list of athletes and tick them off as we go, and it'll keep me busy throughout the season. And I sort of told my manager about it, and then we all put our heads together and came up with the idea of doing an illustrated book. And I think getting some charities involved in it, and someone else benefiting from it, as well as telling some really great stories to hopefully a lot of people.
Lisa's obviously been very instrumental in helping to motivate and inspire you to go through with it. And she's a pretty straight-talking sharpshooter in regards to her critiquing. Were there any pictures where she just sort of gave it to you straight and said, no good?
I was nervous about showing her picture, actually, because Lisa actually features in the book, as she should. She's been a trailblazer in many fields. But, I was really nervous about showing. I put hers off. I did hers last.
Right.
It's harder when you do a picture of someone who's quite close to you. I find it really difficult. So, there was a couple there where she'd be like, not sure you've nailed it. Maybe give it another go.
Yeah. That sounds like Lisa as well.
Yeah, but I would much prefer to hear that before it actually goes to publishing, and the person who I've drawn sees it and thinks, "Oh my God, she's got it wrong."
100%.
Have you had any feedback? Any athletes got in touch and sort of, good or bad, or?
Yeah, that's been a part. I was terrified of that part, actually. It was really important to me to get their permission to I guess use them in the book. It just seemed like the polite thing and the right thing to do.
Right.
So I contacted every one of the athletes, and they were all, like I say, incredibly humble. Anna Mears was surprised that she was included in 35, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Do you know who you are?" But there was just a real sense of warmth with all the responses. Lauren Jackson was exactly the same, really gracious, and we had some of the athletes actually come to the launch. So we had LEISEL Jones, who's a really warm, bubbly person. And then we had also Lydia Lucilla, who just jumped off Australian Survivor and came in and was at the launch, along with Louise Savage. Belinda Clark was there. We had Lisa Stalaker. And we also had Dawn Fraser. And for me, this was the most heartwarming part of the whole thing is we'd actually contacted 34 of the 35 athletes, and we'd sent an email to Dawn about 5 or 6 weeks before the deadline. It was the day before the deadline, and I got told that Dawn would call me throughout the day. So I was basically just looking at my phone the entire time, and I had this one cricket thing that I had to do, and she called whilst I was doing this cricket thing, and I missed her call, and I was like, oh my God, no. Dawn thinks I'm screening her calls.
No.
And obviously she was on private, so I couldn't call her back. And I quickly got on my computer and sent her an email, and I was like, I'm so sorry, Dawn. I think I missed your phone call. If you can call me back anytime, I'm free. So I just basically sat down and stared at my phone for the rest of the and it got to like 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, and I'm like, I have to shower. And I was like, I cannot miss this call. So I took the phone and put it on the vanity, and I was like, had the quickest shower in the world, but I like kept having to default the shower screen to see my phone in case Dawn was calling. And then it got to like 8:30 and she hadn't called, and I thought, oh, I've missed my chance here. What a bugger. And she called just before bed, and she was absolutely beautiful. And she apologized for not being able to get in contact sooner. She had a really great excuse. She had a fall.
Oh no! And
she'd broken her left wrist and her right elbow. So she said she couldn't type anything.
Oh no!
She went on, and we had a conversation for about 30 or 40 minutes on the phone, and she gave me a fair bit of advice, and then she sent me through her phone number and said, like, if you ever want any, advice, especially about the mentality behind sport and all of that, give her a buzz. And she was just really happy that something like this was happening. She thought it was long overdue, that these people should be celebrated. And as we know, she's a huge champion of all women in sport. And to me, she felt like the godmother of Australian sports. So to get her tick of approval on the project meant a lot. And she actually flew in from Berlin from is it the L'Oreal Sports Awards or something? Yeah, she flew in that morning of the launch to attend the launch. So she's a remarkably special lady.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, awesome. She's right in this. Yeah, like there's a lot of female, like the people in the book, like if they were male, like everybody would know who they were, and they would have, their name would always have been up in lights. But so like Dawn Fraser is just an absolute legend of sport and Aussie sport, and typical Aussie larrikin too, which is probably the best thing about it.
Wasn't she just?
Didn't take took a sport and took a swimming seriously, but everything outside of it, she was pretty she was pretty laid back and had a good time doing it. So which is good. So so you say you use drawing as an outlet, takes your mind off cricket and stuff. Have you always done that? Like, did you draw as a kid? Or is it something that you just sort of did from the start? Did you do art at school? Is that something that you did, or how did drawing come about in your life?
I was actually quite a shy kid. Not a lot of people believe that now, but I am actually quite a shy person. I think I hide behind here a little bit. But when I was going through high school, I was really introverted and really didn't feel like I could express myself unless I was on some sort of sporting field or cricket pitch or whatever it was. So for me, drawing helped me do that. It's probably started with me giving people gifts. So I draw something to show how much I cared about someone or whatnot. And then later on, it's especially with cricket, I've used it as a tool to just completely, like, cricket's such a mentally draining sport, and I think especially in a leadership position, your mind's constantly going with the preparation, with the reflection on the game, with critiquing, with managing your own performance, the media stuff. There's so much involved with it all now that if you let it, it can become all encompassing. So you have to have an outlet. And for me, drawing's the only time when my brain completely switches off. I'm a bit of an overthinker. So I was self-taught. My first picture was I don't know if anyone remembers those TV hit magazines.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys were that into them, but
not really, but I know what they were.
I used to have a crush on Bo Brady when I was a kid, and there was a poster. There was a poster of him in this, and I was like, man, I'm so in love with this dude. I'm going to draw him. So that's how it pretty much started. I was like 10 or 11, I think. Did
you send it to him in the mail to his fan club mailing address?
No, I didn't push it. Like I said, I was quite shy. I kept it to myself. But I think this is a story that I've only just started telling people.
No, it's framed on the wall at home.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
So let me get this right.
Right then.
So let me get this right. You're now a published illustrator, but you've had no formal training.
No, none at all. I did art at school, but it was all theory based. I did one major piece, but it was a painting piece of work, and I actually did it on Kathy Freeman, Ian Thorpe, and Leighton Hewitt. So I just did 3 different paintings of them, but I haven't had lessons, or I've actually just signed up in these isolation times to an online course to try and learn how to draw properly. So
that might be a waste of time, I reckon, because I think you can draw okay.
Most people have to do all that before they get published. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I guess from your sporting background, you realise that it's important to be able to research and find out what other people are doing and all that sort of stuff. So I just thought, from an artistic point of view, are you doing that? Have you been now studying other artists and other styles and trying to, I guess, broaden your horizons in that field or department?
Yeah, definitely. I'm very aware that I'm not Picasso. I like drawing, and this has sort of been a passion project, and it fit in with pretty much where the world is at the minute. So there was a lot of timing associated with, and also opportunity with Cricket Australia coming on board to help out with the publishing and to use it as a tool throughout their World Cup. So there was a lot of elements that came into play outside of my drawing capability or ability. So yeah, for me, I'm always looking to improve. I think it's a cricketer's thing. It's such an imperfect game that you strive for perfection in everything that you do. And I think that sort of approach or attitude sort of filters out into other aspects of your life. And that's very much like that for me for drawing. And I think one of the good places you can look for inspiration and stuff is through Instagram. There's tons of amazingly talented people on there. So I'll sort of have a look in on there. And I mean, at the moment with this course, I'm learning how to do an eye, and I mean, they're so much more intricate than I've ever drawn them.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I took some art in college too. I think when you take a course and you begin to sort of see things differently. I mean, it sounds very cliche and vague to say see things differently, but very, very literally, like the way that your brain processes the images that you're looking at. You look at things in like terms of light and dark and shadow more than the object that it represents and that sort of thing. Have you found that to be your experience with what you've learned so far?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing things like negative space.
Right.
And I was like, what the hell is negative space? I thought it was just a pencil and paper. So like, totally. There's so much more to it. And I think for me, I feel like I have a very niche sort of style. Like mine's a little bit cartoony, and I always try and capture something about the person. That's more, I don't have any real techniques that I use or anything, but I always try and capture something about the person or the personality or something in the picture. But I prefer black and white stuff. I think that's probably what I'm best at, is just a sketch with a pencil. But I didn't realize there was so many different types of pencils or erasers or certain types of sharpness. And I was very basic.
Oh boy.
So what else is in the pipeline? Now that you've completed your first project and you're a published illustrator, what's next and where to from here?
It's a great question, Hamish. I was never really a forward planner until the last couple of years when you sort of, especially coming towards the end of my cricket days, I got to think about life after cricket. So I think the timing of all this was actually tricky for us. We just had the launch with the book and the World Cup had just finished, and we had a fair few plans off the back of the World Cup with Cricket Australia to sort of promote the book and then to do some extra work too. So there's obviously going to be a celebration of what the girls achieved in the World Cup, and I think there was talks about me potentially doing some work with Cricket Australia to celebrate some moments throughout the World Cup through pictures. So I'm not sure whether that'll be something that comes back up later in the year, but we'll be looking to promote the book as much as we can. I think Mother's Day is just around the corner, and those that are struggling for ideas to get their mum something, this is probably something that they could love if they're a sports fan. So I think we'll try and work with the publisher and do some bits and pieces. But we've got some really cool ideas later in the year about doing maybe a road show with visiting the places where these athletes started their careers and doing some school visits and stuff like that. So I think the education field is something that we've had an appetite from teachers and stuff to use the book as a tool in their classrooms. And I think for me, that would be the best outcome. As a kid, there wasn't many posters of female athletes that I could get access to, or trading cards or anything like that. So if a little girl can see the book and then see she could be what she wants to be, that's a pretty rewarding thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Something we haven't spoken about yet is you mentioned the words that accompany all your illustrations in the book, and I'm curious because I've not had the opportunity to read it yet. I haven't got my hands on a copy yet. It's sold out everywhere.
Oh, Nick!
But,
I'm just kidding.
What can readers expect? Are they experiences written by the athletes themselves, or biographies, or can you give me a sort of an idea of what that entails?
Yeah, it's sort of a mix, really. Ideally, we would have loved to contact each athlete and do an interview, but the publisher actually wanted to take a different approach with that and write it from my point of view. So I'm not proclaiming to be a sport expert and to know the 35 best Australian female athletes or anything, but these are the people that inspired me. So I've been lucky enough to have some interactions with some of these people too. Sherelle McMahon, the netballer, was my favourite athlete when I was a kid, and so there's some stories about meeting her and so a little bit of the interactions I've had with some of these athletes, or how they've inspired me in my journey, or also the change they've created in their sport, or the change they're continuing to create. So someone like Lauren Jackson, who is a legend of basketball, not just female basketball, but basketball. She's now head honcho of the women's game and creating real change from a powerful administrative position. So there's some stories in and around all those types of things. And then obviously getting the athletes' input on what kindness meant to them, that was really eye-opening. We got lots of different responses and some really cool insights into the people that they are. So there's sort of a bit of everything involved in there.
Yeah, great.
Cool. So, I mean, you mentioned it before. Obviously, it's important that young girls or young women get to see role models, whether or not they are in sport or they're out of sport. But obviously, one of the great things we saw recently, you mentioned it, was the World Cup and the World Cup final. And obviously it was great, that Australia won. That's obviously important. But I think obviously the big thing that I think was the big takeaway from that was the crowd at the final. There was 86,174 people at the MCG. It filled the MCG. The atmosphere was unbelievable, and it was just even though you had Katy Perry there, which was obviously a big attraction for before and after. But I think it seemed to me that they were there to watch the girls play.
Yeah, absolutely. I was lucky enough to be there on that day, and I think in the lead up there was a bit of controversy around the fact that they were trying to buy people into this whole idea of getting Katy Perry. But you look at any huge sporting event worldwide, and there's always an element of entertainment. So why wouldn't a Women's World Cup final have something like that too? It's
most people watch most people watch the Super Bowl for the halftime entertainment.
Super Bowl, yeah, right, exactly. So I mean, a Women's International Day, I think Nick Hockley and the World Cup team were just geniuses with how they planned the final being on Women's International Day. I just thought it was an amazing, just a clash of celebration for that event, and for the script to be written the way it was, with Australia overcoming everything they could possibly overcome to get to the final, and just to be able to compete that day.
Yeah.
But to win it was amazing. And I mean, I think it's a phenomenal effort. I don't think if someone had said to us a couple of years ago, even 12 months ago, that you'd pack out the MCG, that was a possibility. But the growth of the game and the growth of women's sport in Australia has been massive over the last probably 3 or 4 years in particular. And the girls are playing good quality sport. It doesn't matter if you can't hit it as far or as hard. It's entertainment. And you look at the Big Bash games this year, and they were all really tight as well. So the entertainment is there, and the audience is starting to respond to that. And I know props to Cricket Australia. They put so much work into getting that event to be what it could. But the first game of the World Cup, there was also 20-odd thousand at that game. And I remember walking into that, and it felt like you're going to a men's game. And I thought, what a cool feeling for these girls. So, amazing event. And hopefully they can sort of use that as a bit of a platform to propel not only cricket, but all sport, to have those sort of events more often.
Yeah, and like you said, let's not discount the skill of the women that are playing the game in this day and age. I've seen it personally evolve over a 20, 30-year period, and it just knocks my socks off to see what they're doing on the field. Go back a few years to that classic Corinne Hall catch that you took diving backwards. Like I say, if you show that footage to any sports lover 20 or 30 years ago, they wouldn't believe it. Just how athletic these girls are these days.
Yeah,
and they're selling their own package.
Yeah, and like you see the youngsters coming through, they're already at that level and like dominating, like 16-year-olds, Phoebe Litchfield and alike. They're coming in and they've got all the opportunity in the world to be as good as they want to be, which is another reason why it's important to remember where we came from. I think it's more important time than ever that those young girls who come straight out of school, go straight into full-time cricket, paid careers, need to understand that there has been a lot that's come before it. I'm so passionate about that with our culture down in Tas, is remembering those, because I've played with those people. I started when I was 14, and I saw lawyers and doctors have to give away cricket, and these are girls that were playing at the top level because they had to provide for their families. So the game is at an amazing point at the minute, and the quality and the skill level is only going to get better and better. And I think it's a good time for me to be leaving pretty soon, because I think all these young girls are going to run strings around me.
Speaking of which, how much petrol have you got in the tank?
I actually just had a shoulder operation, so I'm 7 weeks post-op at the minute. And the interesting thing was I went to the surgeon, and you go for your consultation, and they try and give you an idea of what obviously your time, your rehab time and everything. But my question was to the surgeon, which shoulder should I get done first? And he's like, well. So the plan actually was to get them both done this off season. So I got the left one done quickly because I just subluxed it in one of the games, trying to play a paddle to a ball. I probably should have played a paddle too. So it serves me right. But and I just struggled throughout the season. At the end of the WNCL season, I couldn't even hold a bat. So got the left one done. And then the right one, I actually had a call from the surgeon's office this morning. I think elective surgery is back on. So we'll have a discussion with the sports support staff team and see if we can squeeze that in. I think it'll be close to the start of the season, so we might just have to rehab this one this year and maybe do it at the end of the season. But I guess that's a big point for me. My body's getting a bit older, and I think the way I've played hasn't helped me. I'm a bit of a gruddy scrambler. Like, I'm more on the floor than I'm often on my feet. So I'm paying for all that now. But yeah, I've got one more year left with the Hurricanes and with Cricket Tas, and then see where the body's at that point.
Has there been any talk from sort of Cricket Tasmania about the start of the season? Are they, have they been sort of in discussions with Cricket Australia, obviously with what's happening at the moment? Are they looking at sort of because Big Bash was October, November start last year? Is it going to be similar? Are they hoping it's going to be similar, or is it just sort of too up in the air at the moment to give anybody any sort of definite sort of timelines?
I think, like everyone, it's a little bit unknown. Not sure what will quite happen. But Cricket Australia and Cricket Tas have been in regular contact with us. So at the minute, I think we were looking to have 2 WNCL games before Big Bash. So they're the ones that look like they're in jeopardy because there's a month window between those games and Big Bash. So at the minute, I think Big Bash is a priority for both men and women's cricket. It makes sense. It's the cash machine for our game, and it's a spectacle. So they obviously want to prioritise that. But obviously with the World Cup, not sure when that will happen with the men either. There's a little bit of uncertainty around when we'll play. I think we'll definitely get the Big Bash in. The one-day cricket stuff might be affected, but at the minute we're planning to be playing in September, October. So our team at Cricket Tas are very creative with what they're trying to do with our program. So at the minute, I think they've got 2 templates. They've got like a isolation template and an all guns blazing sort of program as well. So I think they're prepared for whatever will be thrown at us. But I think the biggest thing will be is our funding will be cut. So we won't have the same level of support or access to things that we had last year. But it's just the way things are with everyone. And the good thing about cricket is you learn to adapt quickly. So we'll do the same with our training.
Well, hopefully, like they're talking about, cutting funding, because we understand that obviously there's lots of financial implications to this situation. But you hope that it's an equal cut. It doesn't just come out of one person's kitty to go in someone else's. If you understand what I'm talking about, hopefully, if both men and women sort of take an equal hit. In that regard, because obviously, especially like coming off the World Cup, you don't want to start cutting the women's program because I think it's not it's not as valuable. It's important that state associations, Cricket Australia, obviously back everybody equally and provide as much funding as they possibly can in these situations, so that everybody can play cricket and keep playing cricket at the highest level or the highest standard that they can.
That's definitely what we've felt as a player. Like, it's not the women's game at one point, I think when I was playing, felt a bit tokenistic, but it's not felt like that the last 4 or 5 years. There's a heavy investment from Cricket Australia to make sure that they're giving women as much opportunity as the men to showcase their skills. So, we can feel that even from a broadcasting point of view. You see Channel 7 putting a lot of work into not just celebrating players and skill levels and all that, but promoting the people and creating a platform for girls who want to create a profile or a brand for themselves, the opportunity to do so, and also getting the audience to get to know some of the girls, because a lot of them are really interesting, incredible people who have multiple careers and all these different elements to them. So it's nice to see that exposure.
Yeah, I think Channel 7 is doing a really good job in that regard, and getting, whether or not it's getting Elise Villani to commentate on games or whatever it is, or showcasing you. I saw their little piece on you about your drawing and stuff. So like that sort of stuff, just to get people, and again, it's about getting those young girls that they can see someone on TV that is doing whatever they're doing, and know that if they're interested in the same thing and they want to do, or they want to go wherever they want to go, that they've got someone that they can look up to and do it. And the good thing, obviously, going to the Big Bash games is after the game, when the girls will come over and they sign autographs. It's not just girls lining up for autographs. It's young boys as well. They don't worry about that their favourite player is Corinne Hall or Sarah Ailey or Elise Perry. Like, it's just,
nice names there, Stu.
Just sort of drop
your sister's name in with Elise Perry.
Well
just sort of drop a couple in. But it's just like, because they want to get their autograph, and they turn up and they watch them play, and they like watching them play. They don't have to just watch the guys play. They enjoy playing it, and that's only going to that only helps the game of cricket as a whole, not just the women's game or the men's game. That just helps the game of cricket, which is really good to see.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's been something I've noticed the last probably 2 years is more younger boys and even sort of teenage boys turning up to our games. And I know in Taz, we used to get heckled a little bit by those teenage boys about 5 or 6 years ago. So it's nice to see those attitudes change. And one of our former captains, actually Bankstown captain, Sal Curry, she has a couple of kids and she's telling stories all the time about how her young boy pretends to be a female cricketer in the backyard. He pretends to be, Elisa Healy or, Aaron Burns. So, yeah. I mean, that's a huge shift in a generational change, really. So we're definitely on the right path.
Absolutely. It's good to see. Now, Hamish, as
yes.
a former bowling great, I use that term loosely.
Who are you talking to?
Hamish Solomons.
Okay.
Obviously, there's been a bit of talk in this when we finally get there in the post-coronavirus world and cricket around the cricket ball and an age-old practice that has been done since day one of cricket, and that's shining the ball and what could happen to that. And possibly, a few of our Australian players might have just been ahead of their time a couple of years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, look, it's going to be probably in this day and age a huge grey area in the game of cricket, because obviously the use of saliva is crucial for, I would say, 90% of bowlers, particularly the pace bowlers. I know myself, I was a pretty slow swing bowler, so I relied on shining the ball and manipulating the ball in that sense, legal sense, a hell of a lot. But I think there's going to be restrictions on putting saliva on the ball when we do return back to cricket. So we have to look at ways that bowlers don't lose that advantage, because a lot of people are saying that it's more of a batting-friendly game as it is at the moment. Yeah. So we don't want to make it even easier for those damn batters.
No. So what do you think? I know Richard Halley sort of come out and said that maybe we need to make the seam bigger. So obviously there's that sort of thing. What do you think are some things that could possibly be done to make sure we keep that balance?
Yeah, look, I think if they can, and we have to keep challenging the batters as well. Yeah. We don't want to make the game so easy as it's just the bowler becomes almost redundant in the game. The batters need to be challenged. We love seeing good games of cricket where they are getting challenged. We love the night test because we know the ball moves around and the batters are going to not have it all their way. So, look, yeah, I think if the companies that manufacture the balls can find a way to raise the seam a little bit, or whether we just have a system where there is perhaps a bottle of water that the umpire holds, and once every 2 to 3 balls, the bowler is allowed to put a little bit on his hand and use that to allow them to continue to impart some shine on the ball. I think we definitely have to be proactive in working on how a bowler doesn't lose that advantage.
Yeah.
Hey, Mo, what about, I just had a little idea because I've not given this any thought, sorry. But, what about if the umpire had some sort of like chamois towel or something that had some sort of, I don't know, something on it that you could actually just shine the ball with. Maybe you get it once every ball or every few balls or whatever, that you get access to something like that where it's controlled as well and they can be in control of what's happening.
Like even if you think about it, a wet hand towel.
Yeah.
And it could only be water. It obviously can't be any other sort of formula, because that would be deemed as illegal, I would suggest, whether it's sunscreen or stuff like that. It would have to just be pure water. But I can't see an issue with that. And, obviously the towel's going to dry out on a hot day, but we just got to find a way to pour some water on it, keep it damp. It's done in front of the umpire. For instance, when the conditions are wet, we have a towel out there anyway, mid on, mid off. The umpire carries a towel and they're allowed to manipulate and dry the ball. So I can't see why we shouldn't be able to do something like that to help the bowlers maintain some form of shine on the ball.
Yeah, but maybe it is some sort of
Great
thing.
idea, Corinne.
Yeah,
Great idea.
thinker.
You can have that one, Hamo.
So maybe it is something other. Maybe it is something other than water that makes sure that.
Collaboration.
Sign it off. You got to trademark it though, because otherwise you won't make any money out of it. Maybe it is something.
I reckon for bowlers it'll be hard with like routine because it's such a natural thing now. Like you wipe your forehead and you like walking back to. It's going to be hard to change those habits more than anything else. I think.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how you're going to stop. Like how you're going to stop that. Like because it's not just at like the top level. It's just like at every level. How are you going to stop?
Yeah.
How are you going to stop bowlers from doing it? And what happens if they do it? What are you going to have to change the ball?
Yeah,
you're going to have to.
Yeah. Look, it's a muscle memory. It's a muscle memory for a lot of cricketers. They've been doing it for 20, 25 years. How do you stop just instantly doing that when you see the ball? You've just been whacked into the pavilion onto the concrete and you see the ball's just got a big scuff mark on it. You're just going to go, oh, that's nice. Or you just instantly start working on the ball.
Just got to try and polish that off. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I mean, obviously, look, it creates something different in the world of cricket. We're going to, the game's going to be slightly different because we can change something. So whether or not that ball's slightly different, I don't know. Maybe they come out with a ball that's shiny on one side and it's rough on the other, slightly rough on the other to start with. So that
the balls you used to wrap in
like the electrical tape, just something like that. So it's instantly like that. So you instantly get some swing or something, or you're gonna have to dictate how pitches are prepared. So that obviously early on, they are green and they do move about. So that gives the bowling side something to work with. So you're not just playing on a flat wicket. Maybe it is more. Obviously more day-night test matches because that at night time the ball is going to move around. So maybe we may have to push to more nighttime test matches just to keep it spicy. But I mean, I think the thing that we're most looking forward to the moment is actually just being able to get onto the field. I think that's the key at this stage.
Yeah, look, I think that would be the big bonus for everyone is let's get on the field first. Let's get the competition started. We've still got a bit of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'd hate to see that part of the game leave because I think most cricket lovers just like seeing the ball move around. It's a great part of the game.
Well, like I said, it's part of the game. It's part of that's what makes a good batsman a good batsman. He can face, he's challenged by the top bowlers that can move the ball about and he gets through them. And I mean, it's no real fun just watching some bloke just batting on a flat wicket, just belting blokes everywhere because there's no movement and it's easy to do. So, you want to be, I mean, I'm probably not that, I mean, I'm a batsman and bloke can bowl it straight and I'll still nick it. It doesn't matter. He can bowl the straightest ball in the world. I'm still going to nick it. So the flat of the wicket and the straight of the ball are probably better for me. But you want to make sure that because cricket is a contest, so you want to make sure that that's as equal as possible. Yeah. All right. Guys, I reckon that might be about it. What do you think?
Yeah,
well, I think before we sign off, I'd just like to get it out there for Corinne and her book. How are the listeners going to be able to get their hands on a copy?
Thank you, Hamo.
I was getting to that. That was going to be part of the the outro. Like Corinne, thanks for coming on. Great hearing about the book. Where can we get it from? Yeah, you did. You did. I had this great spiel. Hamish.
He anticipated you, man.
Anyway.
All right,
give us a spiel now.
No, mate. The moment's passed. It's been done. It's been passed.
No, I wasn't expecting any spruiking. This feels like just a catch up of old friends. So it does, doesn't it? Yeah, it's been awesome. But yeah, the book was exclusively sold through the Cricket Australia merchandise store throughout the World Cup, but now we've sort of got it onto Booktopia, which I think is going gangbusters at the minute because people are turning to books to fill in their time throughout the isolation phase. So you can get it on most good bookstores online at the minute or through the Cricket Australia website.
Can I make a suggestion to anyone who is a parent out there and that is listening, other than buying the book for your son and daughter?
We lost Hamish for a second.
Perhaps to get a second school life. Can we? Am I back?
Yeah,
I think you're back. Yeah, you sort of disappeared for a bit. I don't know what happened to you.
Where were we up to? Because it was a good.
I think you
son and daughter.
Get a copy for your son and daughter. But I think you might have mentioned was to get a copy for your school library as well.
Yes, so buy a second copy and perhaps donate it to your school library so that your efforts can continue to inspire young female sports people at every school.
That's a great idea, Hamish.
Definitely.
Hey Mo, I feel like this conversation's been an interview for you to try and get an extra job here, and I'm thinking I might hire you as my PR person.
Well, I've got a bit of time on my plate at the moment, so let's get our heads together.
There you go.
Beautiful. We'll chat afterwards.
Well, okay. Do you have any place online that you're doing any sort of PR personally for the book, or do you have an Instagram account or Facebook account or anything you're using for that sort of stuff to have like promotion for your readers?
Yeah, we're working on a website at the minute. We're just got to get that ticked through the right channels, so we'll make sure we're doing all the right things by everyone. But at the minute, we're just sort of promoting it through our own personal channels. So Michael Randall, who's the co-author, he's doing it. He works for the Herald Sun, so he's doing some work through that. My Instagram is Crinny17, so we're doing some stuff through that. And the publisher, Wild Dingo's been spruiking us a bit as well. So there's some information on the Cricket Australia website or through our own personal social media accounts at the minute. Hopefully the website's coming soon.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure those are all included in all our descriptions for this episode of the podcast. And if you want to reach us, if you've enjoyed the podcast here, you can be watching us here on YouTube. We hope you are. But we're also reachable at Facebook at Kingsgrove Sports Centre, Instagram at Kingsgrove Sports, or Twitter at Kingsgrove Sport. Use the hashtag KSC Podcast if you want to try and get our attention. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and if you're using a different podcast platform, the RSS feed for this podcast is in the description of every YouTube video. So that pretty much does it.
Like I keep saying, we are slowly taking over the world.
We're trying.
You cannot escape us.
We're trying.
We're everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, I reckon that wraps it up. I reckon this has been our best podcast ever.
We always say that, but I really mean it this time.
This is true. Usually I just say it just so I don't hurt the other guy's feelings, but I mean this one. This has been our best podcast ever. Corinne, it's been fantastic to see you again. It's been too long down in Tasmania. I hope everything goes well. I hope the shoulder comes up good. Hope you keep nice and fit in that home gym. Can't wait to see you back out playing again. People, do yourself a favour. Go get yourself a copy of the book. You will not regret it. It's awesome. Hamish, great to see you at the home of cricket in Penshurst, the Norm O'Neill Cricket Centre. Good luck today. Looks like you're going to be really busy this afternoon. Hope that vacuuming goes well. And of course, a big thanks to Nick, who is going to put this all together. I think you're fading out again, Hamo. I think we need to wrap it up because Hamish is disappearing. He's slowly slowing down. His internet's running out. Guys, great to see you.
Dial up.
Yeah, he's got dial up. I told you, Hamo, you got to get to the 21st century. Get off dial up. Come on, mate.
Come on, Corinne. Don't sledge us. Don't you sledge us about technology.
That was a good comeback. End the show on that. All right, guys. Yeah. Good to see everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time.